Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is foreign to the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality and power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone in FM. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
Colonizing neutron stars with Hong Kong gold. That's the title of today's news art. Frico Talks the News for Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. On today's show, we're going to be talking about seed patent colonizers granted self-regulatory powers, AI race highlighted in recent meeting of marine minds, Chairman X's Hong Kong glory may be fool's gold, neutron stars have Quark, Novelty bursting, with the possible and some of the additional cues to what will be on the show, well, Secure Rule, USDA Secure Rule, Small Farmer NGO, Big Ideas Exchange Marines, Colonel Ralph, Randolph Pugh, Marine Corps Commandant General David Berger, President Xi Jingping makes our list today, Xi China Hong Kong, President Xi Hong Kong, Neutron Star Quark Matter, Associate Professor Aleksi Vuorinen. We're going to tie all that together in our news art today. So let's get... Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to mention, I can't forget to mention this. Get your daily Frico updates. Just enter your email and register for daily updates today at frico.com daily. And I will fix this eventually. It's in my schedule, so it won't say email and address. I will fix this. Haven't gotten to it yet because I'm almost caught up from what happened on Monday when all of the best laid plans of mice and men crashed the minds of the mighty. And, well, I'm not even mighty, so imagine what it does to me. I am the world's greatest podcaster, though, so that's just fact. So because of that, I overcame, and I'm still overcoming, and I'm on my way to almost being there. So let's get ready to record our first segment here. That is the Talk Headlines. Let's get this queued up and ready. And we'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. This is the Talk Headlines for Frico Talks the News on Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. I'm Frico with Frico.com. And on today's headline, seed patent colonizers granted self-regulatory powers. And they're going to talk about the Secure Rule, specifically the USDA Secure Rule, Small Farmer NGO, that's a thing, Department of Agriculture, USDA, and CRISPR. Oh, and patents. U.S. regulators appear to be allegedly, you never know. Everyone is so partisan, so you can hardly tell truth from fiction and nuance and whatnots. But I'm led to believe there's pretty good credibility to what I'm presenting here from numerous reasons, including really my fundamental understanding or assumptions about the reality of power. So allegedly they're going to give corporations the power to determine whether their latest patent GovGun protected genetic alteration of seeds should be regulated or not. And they investigated themselves and found they really not need be regulated. And I do believe that that was not a diversion there. I think I really needed to qualify how I present this. And certainly this story, I would definitely say, don't take my word for it or this article's word for it. If you really want to understand, do the investigating. But the principle, what's at play here is still pretty clear to me is what's at play. The degree to which this rule does what they say it does, there may be some doubt to it. I am inclined, though, to believe them on this point. Okay, so here we go. Here is the actual excerpt. In May, or let me read their title. Hold on. This is from Yahoo News, which is really, it's AP or whatever different. It's not always the same thing. I'll just put Yahoo News for now. And there's a link to it. You can click and go to the original article right there. How a new biotech rule would impede progress in science. In May, federal regulators finalized a new biotechnology policy that will bring sweeping changes to the U.S. food system. Dubbed Secure, the rule would revises U.S. Department of Agriculture regulations over genetically engineered plants, automatically exempting many gene-edited crops from government oversight. Companies and labels will be allowed to self-determine whether or not a crop should undergo regulatory review or environmental risk assessment. I mean, that's That's the allegeds of this affair. This is what we're talking about. Initial response to this new policy have followed familiar fault lines in the food community. Seed industry, trade groups, and biotech firms hailed the rule as important to support continuing innovation. Innovation. Important innovation. My friends, innovation. This is basically what they're not telling you is this is a bunch of folks that are harvesting mines. And actually they're not even harvesting mines in this case. They're actually harvesting patterns that anyone can find if they have the tools. Anyone can find these potential patterns and follow where they lead and weed out the unsuccessful and have AIs that can do a lot of prep work for you to cut down on your initial investment time and effort. Anyone could do this. You could have, essentially, if you leave it alone, you could have simultaneous inventions that are less than a year apart. But it's a race against time to put your flag in that pattern that already exists. We're just finding the patterns. So this is really pattern colonization. You're literally colonizing the patterns of potential creation itself. You're literally colonizing creation in essence. And in this case, what it also doesn't really touch on in this article, or focusing really, in large part, my sense is that the article is focusing on the ability of these first off, it gives these mega corporations tremendous advantage if they can, they have the multi-gazillion dollar AIs and deep learning machines and whatnots working in tandem with one another, along with the high-powered expertise patent lawyers to do the work quickly and efficiently to put their flags in the patterns of creation that could potentially be. There's literally a war between farmers and seed companies, and the seed companies not wanting farmers to be able to freely do what they want with the seeds because the seeds are literally patented. The intellectual property of seed is a thing that the federal government will use guns to protect, and has used guns to protect. I don't know if anyone has died or not, but I'm sure in the vast exchanges in these matters that there have been deaths, whether it's been officers or the people being attempted to be dealt with because they violated this intellectual property thing. And the courts found in favor of the intellectual property holder, and thus guns. Well, there's always a choice. You could choose to basically have your life destroyed before the guns show up, or you could choose to make them destroy your life. Some people choose to make them destroy their lives. Make it visible, the nature of the whole affair. If they figure they're going down anyway, who knows? Maybe that's their thinking. I don't know. But at the very least, businesses with lives attached to them have been destroyed. Small businesses, small farms, destroyed and absorbed by megacorps using the power of this IP. The IP that reaches into the very heart and soul of creation itself, that dares to own the pattern potential of freaking seeds. This is what patent and IP leads to. You start off harvesting and colonizing mines and hoarding them in your virtual safes, protected by real guns and missiles and drones and nuclear warheads, to be sure. You start off with that, and then you transfer it over to creation itself, to existence itself. Patterns of existential potential, or patterns of existentiality that already exist, and you're just discovering them. Whether you're manipulating to unfold in much more rapid form the evolutionary push that could happen in a species that has a hyper drive towards one potential trait that is artificially being engineered from outside of it. And that's essentially what we're talking about here. And you're talking about owning that. That's incredibly, that's chilling to the least. This law, this is we live in Woodrow Wilson's hive. I know this seems unrelated, but it is totally related to how power shifts in America, how structures are fundamentally changed overnight, relatively speaking, with no democratic input, no consensual input from the community. You've created a system where you have a handful of surface leaders that use horror and pain and anguish and hope and utopia, combination of those two. Sometimes just the horror. Right now it seems to be mostly just the horror everybody's using. And you use that to push people into positions that they feel the necessity to support, essentially murdering their neighbors. You have a system in place which rewards the hoarders of thought, of the pattern of creation that has been, is being funded in large part through this artificial creation of scarcity, and it's being accelerated by an unelected, unaccountable, faceless process called regulation. And this is what our system now is. We have these grand faces speaking horror and wonder that use that horror and wonder to convince us to support these Orwellian laws that are usually the opposite of what they say they are. What is the Patriot Act? The Patriot Act, fundamentally anti-Bill of Rights, and anti-Bill of Rights by any basic American standard, fundamentally unconstitutional. And they wrote the Patriot Act. The real power of the Patriot Act comes from the regulators, not the law itself. The law itself is the initial impetus of power, but the sustaining of the power is the regulators. And without the regulators, the law itself would have little power. So they're kind of integral to one another. Woodrow Wilson's hive model was to mob popularize politics so that your elected officials were elected using the mob method of campaigning. He didn't use these terms. I'm using these terms. And these elected officials, they pass laws that are voluminous in and of themselves, but they're really just wildly, vaguely written laws intended to create space for vast armies of engineers and experts to be able to quickly change systems to conform to the evolutionary progress of the good of the whole. This is the hive. The idea is that you democratize the face and you anonymize the real power. That's the reality of power that we exist in today. And this is a regulation change that does not come about from individuals being put into a position where there is an assumption of equal power and they can negotiate the terms of their arrangements. This is a fundamental imbalance of power that begins with guns pointed at your head that says, by the way, in 30 days this rule is going to take effect. We'll let you complain for a little while, but you don't follow this rule. Guess what? Guns show up. So what we do is we enable the harvesters, the colonizers of the very patterns of creativity itself to put their flags anywhere and everywhere they want, to own creation itself, so that humanity does not even have the capacity to choose to say no to these vast systems of control that we know we must keep in place if we are to keep our citadelian status. And there you go. That's the end of this segment. I get my stories from my self-run news aggregate of sites, one of which is newsalike.com, where you get the glitz, the odd, the under the radar, the hard to believe. If you go there today, you're going to find Lab makes 4D printing more practical, the social justice warriors take over of newsrooms, armor on butterfly wings protects against heavy rain, British YouTuber goes nuclear on Daniel Radcliffe for his sexist transgender women are women diatribe, Trump wants to delist Chinese companies, but Wall Street could oppose. And finally, in brief, states ask for immediate halt to EPA's pandemic compliance rollback. And don't forget to tip your Frico at Frico.com tips. That's Frico.com tips. You know you want to, or you can just go to Frico.com, click this big old fatty button that says tip your Frico, and you go to PayPal, the safer, easier way, and you send Frico some monies, and it's all good. It's all good. Corn behind me. Corn. All right, I did that. I went with the corn. Alrighty. That was pretty awesome having corn behind me. Now I got something different. You know what? I didn't really think about that. I got this image thing, but where I have the image, you can't see. I'm going to have to shift for this story a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to have to shift around a little bit. I'm going to make some special circumstances for this story because I got to make sure that you see. That's the thing. Oh, then you know what? That's perfect. All right, let's get this recorded. I feel a little awkward here. I'm not in a comfortable space exactly, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it for the visuals. 3, 2, 1. This is the Dialectical for Frico Talks the News on Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. I am Frico with Frico.com. Our Dialectical today, AI race highlighted in recent meeting of marine minds pondering America's force future. That's a lot of words for a headline, but I do like to write long headlines. I'm not going to lie to you. What are we going to get on this? We're going to get that big ideas exchange. We're going to get Colonel Randolph Pugh, Marine Corps Commandant, General David Berger. These are just some of the things we're going to talk about here. Ah, yes, the new breed of American military leaders got together recently to discuss their concept of the new reality for American defense. And in most of these scenarios, AI and deep learning are integral to their plans. These tools will help personnel train an increasingly realistically virtual reality scenarios. Yeah, you read that wrong. They will direct automated responses to incoming threats. These tools will design themselves and even the tools that humans might still operate. So the power of the American military relies on its... I'm going to be taking a bit of a deviation from the point of the article, but this is why I chose the article. So this deviation, this is the heart and soul of why this is the Dialectical today. The power of the American military relies on its advantages across all potential spheres, including and especially technical ones. In the age that already is, the nation-state that masters the most efficient combination of tech might very well be the new empire of the 21st century. And now I didn't write it here for words, but I'm going to pause and make a note of the tech. The tech that we're talking about here, predominantly we're talking about artificial intelligence, talking about deep learning, talking about drones. Yeah. I would think those are the key places that we're really talking about, and integrating all of that together. Those will end up being the most essential elements of them all. The ability to basically to create a drone army, drone armies. At least that's my theory. But even if it's not that, AI is the central. AI, quantum computing and AI hand in hand together. But the race for quantum computing, AI, efficient 5G. If you can go, if you can already move to 6G, go ahead. But yeah, those are the key elements that these nation states are competing in for hegemony in the world to come. And the United States hopes to hold on to that title, and to do so, they're going to need the powerful discoveries made by their paid folks and their designed folks. That is, their idea enhancement tools, their AIs and whatnot, to remain hidden behind virtual vaults with physical weapons protecting them. This nation-state cost on the democratized development of tech has never in human history been more pronounced than it is right now. At a time when the potential for development outside of expensive labs has never been greater, even cheaper, nation states find themselves having to lock down the democratic emergence of tech for fear that their nation state competitors will gain a technological edge that might deliver more effectively and with far more damage destructively physical blows to your property, your people, and your legitimacy to rule. If you watch all the shows and segments and whatnots on Frico Talks the News, then you know how often I cover artificial intelligence, nanotechnology. I'm going to say invasive microbiological manipulation of human potential. These are the types of tools that I've made it clear over and over and over and over again are wonderful in and of themselves. Just fantastic. Fantastic. Big supporter of artificial intelligence and all this stuff that I cover. I'm a big supporter. I haven't yet come across a tool in our show, in my show that I would say, oh, the tool in and of itself. I'm sure if I do, I'll let you know, but I'm sure it'll be very rarely. The tools are fine. The problem is when the tools are concentrated in the hands of the few as far as your access to them. The tools are harvested. The potential for the patterns that the tool could discover, all of that in advance. They keep racing and planting their patent and IP stakes all over the place so that what you end up getting are tools that are made to ultimately keep the Citadelians right where they are. So these are tools that are going to be manipulated so that individuals such as you and I, we don't have the capacity to easily, readily compete with Citadelians. This is, in a way, this is like the luxury taxes after the plague in England in the 14th century. Luxury taxes were intended to stop allowing peasants to look like royals, to base, and this was the way that you look, your ability to possess high levels of craft upon you. That said something powerful about you. It immediately let everyone know the difference between you and them, and that was real power. That opened doors. That got people killed. This is real power. And the peasants started to look like them, and they couldn't have that. This is essentially what we're talking about. They will not be interested in giving human beings the access that they could easily give them to be able to compete with them, to have the same powerful levels of AI at their disposal, to have Joe Schmuckatelli with an IQ of 90 still be in a society that has prepared him well enough so that his AI buddies basically make him an intellectual force to be reckoned with. It's like that kind of level of democratization. They couldn't afford that. So what you will get from your enhancements won't be the same as what the Citadelians get. They will create cost. They will assure their luxury taxes. That's what these are. They will assure through these luxury taxes, these artificial creators of scarcity called intellectual property and patents, that what you end up getting out is something that will not ultimately enable you on a fair playing field to compete with those that had the resources to go before you. These, by the way, these same Citadelians that are doing this right now, that are racing against time to put their stakes everywhere, these are the same powerful mega corporations that are militantly pushing this authoritarian version of social justice. These same people, these same Citadelians that have made a decision, go ahead, do this. Do this. Give these people even more power to use words like racist and bigot to destroy human life. Go ahead, do that. While at the same time, these people are at in a race against time to harvest the most precious commodity of the 21st century, and that is basically, I was calling it thought, but I want to break it down even more. It's essentially pattern. It's essentially owning patterns. If you could own all potential patterns, you would, and that's already been tried. Some people have created tools that have been able to create all of the potential patterns of music within a certain time period. Or within a certain amount of notes, I think is probably more accurate. Certain amount of notes. Yeah, certain amount of notes. And they want to try to patent all the potential, so they own now what they want to do is they want to own the patents, and then they want to basically declare the patents public domain so that there's no, I mean, it's silly, but still, this is what we're talking about. Essentially, we're talking about owning patterns. Everything we create is a pattern of sort. It's a pattern. We take from patterns, and then we mold them and turn them into new patterns, or we simply offer some slight variations, or in some cases we just, well, in most cases, unfortunately for humanity, in the here and now, and perhaps for a long time, the vast majority of us just take patterns and then just regurgitate the patterns. We don't even have much of ourselves that we put into anything anymore, or ever. So this nation state cost on the democratized development of tech has, well, I've already said this, I already went through all of my thing. Now let's get to their excerpt here. And this is, and I don't want to spend as much time with the excerpt as I did with the setup. The setup to me is more important than this excerpt. But the excerpt gave me the excuse for this setup. That's how it works on dialecticals. Artificial intelligence at core Marine officers, big ideas for future of force. This is from basically U.S. Navy news. Right? It's a team of 10 Marines is mulling how to take major technology developments and apply them to the combat missions as part of a naval postgraduate school hosted series of online TED Talk style presentations. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality, and other technological advances are at the center of the, quote, big ideas exchange, unquote. The goal is moving the most promising idea from the theoretical to the practical as quickly as possible. Several students said they drew inspiration for their thinking about the future character of naval warfare from Marine Corps Commandant General David Berger's 2019 guidance to the Marine Corps. Citing the guidance, Colonel Randolph Pugh, Senior Marine Corps Advisor at MPS in Monterey, California, said the students' big ideas presentations are meant to not only stimulate thinking, but also to facilitate moving the most promising ideas from thought to practice to doctrine. Blah, blah, blah. Boring, boring, boring. I just wanted to give you a context here. This is the backdrop. Okay, now, there's a few different things. You got to go click on the article to read some of the ideas. So this whole thing on this whole mining thing, I just glossed over that. It was boring, subjectively speaking. But this was much more interesting, this little part that I've excerpted out here. Past exchanges have produced several ideas now being used. Captain Courtney Thompson's 2019 presentation on combat load affecting mission outcomes had an immediate impact on the 2nd Marine Division Commanding General, Major General. Oh my, that's tricky for anyone there, right there. You got to give me some slack on this. Okay, Commanding General, Major General David Furness, Commanding General, Major General, Commanding General, Major General, Commanding General. You know what? That warrants. I don't have. I tell you what, I got to do it. I have to create a text thingy. And I am going to do it. Going to create a dialectical text thingy. So we'll dialectical text thingy. We're going to do that. And we're going to put Commanding General Major General. Yep, we're doing that. We're going to do it in just you're just simple black. We ain't got a lot of time for stuff, folks. We just got to get her done. Because I know you guys didn't pay to see me do this. But even though you didn't pay for it, you get to see it for free, so you're lucky. So don't complain and don't tell anyone else that you got it for free. Because otherwise, I'll have to get it. It's hard to see this. Alright, there we can see her now. There we go. Commanding General, Major General, Commanding General, Major General. You know what? I don't even know if I want to read all these interesting ideas because they're interesting. You know, one of my reasons for being a little bit, at least I hope, since I live in this country, I really hope that they're sophisticated enough that most of this is BS, that it is intended to send signals to others. It is intended to probably send market signals, but it's also intended to probably send some false signals. But even if the signals are ultimately false, that if they produce some unintended market benefit, that's okay too. If, in other words, if the market produces stuff that they're looking for, that they're talking about. But on the main, I'm hoping that this is not something that they didn't send people to that were really earnestly thinking, hey, let's plainly and openly talk about our strategies and thoughts going forward and put it in a public publication. I'm just thinking. But I'll just touch on just this little one here, and then that's it. Marine Captain Jonathan Boren's idea is to introduce a thinking enemy into modeling and simulation. Boren stressed his idea closes a significant gap in wargaming dating at least to the early 20th century. He traced the need for a thinking enemy in wargames back to Admiral Chester Nimitz's observation that the Navy's pre-World War II tabletop gaming of the Japanese anticipated their every move but one, the kamikaze. Okay, I don't want to read anymore. So there you go. And I mean, as I read this, I also think this is intended to give Americans a little bit of assurance of, hey, man, we're thinking. Although if you read this, I don't know, I think you might feel a little nervous because these guys, I don't know if these ideas are like super duper advanced or they don't sound like deep thinkers. I'll just say that. They don't come across like they're really having a sophisticated understanding of the potential for the technology, and I'm hoping in part that maybe that's a little bit intended, but I don't know. I could be the stupid one. Who knows? But for people maybe who don't read new tech and science stories every day, that this might be also a good promotion for kids that want to join the military. Join the military and become part of the great LARP army that took down the Hungarian resistance or some crap like that. Whatever, they end up using LARP armies, American military online LARP. Because if you don't have an online LARP army, you ain't shit. You ain't shit. You ain't got an online LARP army. I think I'm going to end it at that. I think that's a good place to end this. So this dialectical comes from a number of potential news aggregate websites that I myself curate and run. One of them is Obamacare.tv, free market social engineering for the masses. If you go there today, you could read how the FBI secretly tracked gay activists in the 60s. IBM sues Airbnb over several online commerce-related patents. Virginia trooper coughed on man to spread corona murder investigation into his brother shows. Christian Whitholm, I don't know who this is, but it's an interesting thought that this person threw out, so I put it up there. Trump is right to withdraw 9,500 U.S. troops from Germany. He should pull out even more. Dude, you're literally 12. You should pull out even more. That's what she said. I'm sorry. She didn't say it to me, though. Trust me. Now, oh, gosh. This is inappropriate. This is not a good way to end a dialectical. Does tech have the guts to deploy its resources against police brutality? And finally, new Apple leaks promise stunning MacBook Pro revelation. Get your daily Freako updates. Just enter your email. Just your email, not your address. And register for daily updates today at Freako.com daily. Oh, and I almost forgot. Don't forget to tip your... You know what? I say it with joy and glee. Don't forget to tip your Freako at Freako.com/tips or tips.freako.com. Or you go to Freako.com, hit the big fat tip your Freako button, and that would be good too. All right, we are at the halfway point of the show. And on the other side of the show, after the break, is going to be the talk feature. Don't forget, by the way, if you haven't, to subscribe to our Action Batsa YouTube channel. When we come back on the other side, we are going to be prepped to listen to Chairman Z's Hong Kong Glory, maybe Fool's Gold. That's what you have to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, let's skip on over to the other side.
Love overwhelmed me. 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 Love overwhelmed Love overwhelmed me.
Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is foreign to the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, on gospel, or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we offend. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe that I'm well on my way to having that one turn into a two. You know, it was the first time and since I've been doing these shows now, and this is starting week 10 of this project. And it was the first time that I ever had more than one freak out in a row. And I actually had 3 freakouts in a row. And I believe that I am going to be able to put a 1 up there, or a 2 up there, by the end of this show. That's what I hope to do, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't we record the talk feature? We get through this. I'm actually looking forward to talking about this one. I'm looking forward to this show in general. I'm feeling good today, relatively speaking. Don't have any major health issues going on. My back has I got back pain. I might be going through another back pain cycle, so that's cool. But it's okay. I can deal with that. So all in all, I feel like my chances are pretty high, ladies and gentlemen. We won't have a freak out today. I will be disappointing those of you that are just here to see if it happens. Disappoint you. We'll begin recording in 3, 2, 1. This is our talk feature for today, for Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com. Today's talk feature, Chairman Xi's Hong Kong glory may be fool's gold. This is President Xi Jingping. This is Xi, China, Hong Kong. Or if you will, President Xi, Hong Kong. It's just all a blur now. There he is behind me there. Yeah, there he is. That's the man. That is Chairman Xi, as I call him. And I will continue to call him. All right. The fact that Beijing is pursuing this, well, this is an excerpt from JapanTimes.co. Well, actually, here, let me read what I wrote down here. First, see what I had to say here, because I am important. You know what? Magnetic nanoparticles, you do not survive. You were the text thingy from the last feature segment from yesterday, and you do not survive this one. Moves by Chairman... Now, if you are not aware, folks, ladies and gentlemen, it's a tradition when I create a text thingy, which may or may not happen in this episode, or in this segment. I don't know. Are they called segments or excerpts? I keep going back and forth. I'll say segment. This segment that if I write a text thingy, then I get rid of the text thingy, or I keep the text thingy. Even at the end of the show, I keep it for the next segment, and if it survives, then there's one text thingy that lasted for four shows in a row. So it's possible. Moves by Chairman Xi to clamp down on democracy movement in Hong Kong may yield short-term success, but the cost and the weakness of such moves might, in the long term, mean bad tidings to come for the security of the Chinese Communist Party in the region. Never mind Hong Kong herself. And this is an excerpt from Japan Times. And I apologize, by the way. I went into a little bit of a diversion there before I fully... I gave the highlight of the article. My wife, if you're listening, I apologize. I have screwed up. But I charge forward. Excerpt from Japan Times. Xi Jinping's strategic folly in Hong Kong. The fact that Beijing is pursuing this new law isn't surprising. You know, it doesn't really matter. They're actually pursuing more than one law, but in this new law that they're, well, as of this moment, they are pursuing the one new law that they're pursuing is to outlaw anyone criticizing the Chinese Communist Party's national anthem. In a broad sense, this is, for them continuing, in a broad sense, this is part of the attrition strategy that the Chinese Communist Party has adopted in dealing with the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. Attrition strategy. Chippy chip, 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 chip. By the way, it's exactly the same tactics that the American authoritarian left, I'll say, which really they're pretty much right-wingers. China, by the way, is a right-wing country, the way I kind of... How I think of... Well, I don't know. I don't even know. I'll say that I believe that based on most world prevailing definitions of left-right, I would say that as far as authoritarianism goes, China is more akin to right-wing authoritarianism than left-wing authoritarianism. And so has the American left itself has become a right-wing authoritarian movement. It's just... all that it's really done is just switch some notions of the new tradition and the new orthodoxy, the new moral, especially sexually moral orthodoxy. So, at any rate, the fact that Beijing is pursuing this new law isn't surprising. In a broad sense, this is part of the attrition strategy that the Chinese Communist Party has adopted in dealing with the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. In a paper earlier this year, we outlined the different instruments that Beijing has been using as part of this strategy. These included coercive use of the law, calibrated force, digital surveillance, media and narrative contestation. There is a big one. That has been the fundamental power of this... of the American authoritarian, the new American right. I'll say that's been the fundamental power of the new American right, has been the media and the narrative contestation. But now that has converted to I would say media, social media especially, but media is the initial driver, in large part still, at least amongst the new American right. This has converted, though, to real power, where now judges and police and mayors and laws and regulators are using this type of new American right authoritarianism as a justification for the new coercion, and the new liberty, which is the same as the old. While there was a lull in activities in the first 2 months of the year owing to the coronavirus, from late February onward, it became clear that Beijing was doubling down on its approach. There were fresh charges filed against people like Apple's Daily's Jimmy Lai. Opposition politician Cheng Lai-king was arrested on sedition charges for a Facebook post. Thereafter, in mid-April, there were more arrests of pro-democracy politicians, while the central government's point person in Hong Kong, China's liaison office director Liu Huning, emphasized the need for a new national security. Oh, man, we need safety. Look at the hoodlumages, the stuff. We need... some sort of protection, some hate speech laws, Because, ladies and gentlemen, these people are telling you, what they're telling you is they want to continue to own and possess their own thoughts. They're telling you that they want to continue to have ideas that are counter to the party narrative, and this cannot stand. This is hate speech. Anyone against this is a hater of life, of love, is a hater of decency and hope. Lock them up for the good of the whole, for the security. We can't have these bad apples continuing to pollute everyone else. This is exactly what the new American right is telling you right now. I mean, right now particularly, like, they are ratcheting it up. They're looking for more than just evidence that you did wrong. They're looking for evidence that you're doing good now. We need to make sure that you're living virtuous lives. As a matter of fact, if you're not, we can't employ you. We need to see, do you have Black Lives Matter hashtags up? Are you down with Black Lives Matter? What do you feel about Black Lives Matter? Because our whole world and our whole life depends on your beliefs regarding Black Lives Matter. Remember when we told you that it's not an organization? Well, listen, we're going to send billions of dollars to this non-organization, and we're going to basically try to force everybody. It's like, is Black Lives Matter now to become the new CCP? Is that the rally point? Is that the identity that you're going to try to build around? Black Lives Matter? That's the banner? Man, I know people that have been a part of Black Lives Matter, and I can assure you, well, I can't assure you, but I feel highly confident that many of these folks are very much probably fearful at this point. What have they done to our movement? How has this been so co-opted? I'm looking for DeRay McKessie, or whatever, is that his name? I certainly don't agree with everything he says, but I kind of like him. And I've thought he's made some reasonable comments in the past. I'd love to see what he thinks about all of this sudden use of a label that's part of his identity as some sort of bellwether of whether you're worthy of humanity or not. Does he really feel comfortable with that? It's the same thing. It's the same type of action. This is what they've been doing in Hong Kong. And this is what they're doing in America, the new American right. The new American right, rallying around Black Lives Matter. Wow. Just pretty clever. I don't know what will happen to this movement when the people that are allegedly being protected by it figure out just how much they're being used, and how little hope there is for them using this particular framing of ideas that maybe emerge from consensual wish and thought. That the patterns tell out. Revenge ideologies lead to guillotines, lead to a new strong person to shake things out and restore stability. That will be, in most likelihood, far worse than whatever you replace them with. The Citadelians, in the end, will end up with far more power and more concentrations of wealth at the end of the story that the SJW authoritarian pattern tells me. And I could be wrong, but I seriously doubt it. I'll continue with what they have to say here. In our assessment, these tougher measures by the central leadership are also reflective of the relative success of the 2019 protest. That might sound odd, given the crackdown and challenges that lie ahead for pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, but if one examines the movement from the perspective of disruptive narrative and electoral capacities, the gains made are clear. While it's still early days, expect the new national security legislation to be cleared by the NPC before the Legislative Council elections in Hong Kong in September. The LegCo is Hong Kong's top lawmaking body. And I really want to get a sense of what you have to do in order to recreate the institutions from within. What little you need. This really brings it home. See if you get it. It has 70 members, and only 35 are elected by popular vote. 30 seats are filled by functional constituencies that represent special interests like banking and trade. And what a surprise, and have historically been pro-Beijing. And I've just bet you that Beijing gives them all kinds of sweet deals. Sweet deals, by the way, they may be surprised, might not be so sweet after the transition is fully completed. The structure is such that Beijing, but they sold out for short-term profits, just like American corporations. Hong Kong corporations offered short-term gains from favorable treatment by the Chinese market controllers, a market of 1.3 billion people. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can have our children. Sure. They're not ours anyway. I don't even know, man. We sleep with so many people. I don't even know. The structure is such that Beijing will never lose the majority. But given the 2019 protests and the rising dissent towards China, it would be right to fear sufficient gains by the pro-democracy leaders after the district council election in November last year. Enough seats in the LegCo will allow these individuals to stymie the central leadership's broader agenda. Considering the above, instead of reflecting strength, Chinese President Xi Jinping's gambit of a new national security law is indicative of the central leadership's insecurities. And this is the same, by the way. It's the same of the new American right. And the new American right, like, don't kid yourselves. Whatever you think that is, it is simply vehicles of power for citadelians. And ultimately, what they have realized, I've been saying in the show over and over again, what they realize is that the balance of power in technology significantly favors small scale. And they are desperate to keep that capacity and that knowledge of that capacity away from people like you and I. SJW authoritarianism is simply, it essentially, what does it do? It essentially it attacks all of the fundamental institutions that have helped the American land create killers and sacrificers. Ultimately, America's power comes from its ability to create tools that kill and individuals that know how to use those tools and are willing to do so. That's the ultimate goal of every nation-state structure that any citadelian would hope to create. All throughout human history, the first thing that any new emperor, new king, new anything wants to do is to figure out what the vehicles of power are right now, and if they can be used to further his or her gains, which is to secure violence that protects them and or, depending on their reality of power circumstance, and or allows them to expand their grandness on the world stage. That's it. That's all of human history. That's all we're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same story told over and over again in many, many forms. This whole SJW stuff is just, well, not SJW, the SJW authoritarian stuff. It's just another example of some vehicle of power that maybe who knows, was this engineered from the top? I doubt it. I strongly believe that SJW was an emergent thought process that came largely from individuals with consensual motivations, and that those that have recognized how you could take what they started out with a few tweaks and turns, and if you emphasize and stake the absolutes and declare the compulsions towards morality in which individuals are defined as angels and demons, well, then you got yourself something. The problem with this method is. I'm not sure how well, in the end, you're going to be at producing killers that will have they'll have the will to kill, but will they have the capacity and the skill sets? I doubt in the end that you'll produce a warrior class. Even in the digital drone age, you still need warriors. You're still going to need boots on the ground for various reasons, even reasons I can't even think of right now, that they'll emerge. You need killers. You need warrior classes. And if you have a system that does not create warrior classes, then the system will collapse or be taken by systems that do. That's the reality of power as I see it. I get the stories that you see on Frico Talks the News from my news aggregate of sites that I curate. One of these is pioneeringnews.com. Tech Science Underground News. If you go there today, you'd see Kurdish parties in Rojava to resume unity talks in coming days. Opposition official. Study identifies strategy states use to limit local government control. I tell you, the biggest is threats of loss of funds and the creation of fund dependence. Lab-grown mini-lungs could reveal why coronavirus kills. New nano device could use solar energy to produce hydrogen. Quinnipiac University leaders condemn racist social media posts by incoming students. Consider rescinding their admission offer, I think, or whatever. China dismisses claim that coronavirus started spreading in Wuhan late August. That's claiming by the United States. And don't forget to get your daily Frico updates at Frico Daily or Frico.com/daily. Just enter your email address and register for daily updates today. All right, now we're getting ready for the last segment of the show, which is the news poem. I get that ready, queued up here. Let's just get this, let's just punch this puppy in the head. Let's make this happen in 3, 2, 1. This is a news poem for Frico Talks the News on Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. Today's news poem: Neutron stars have Quark novelty bursting with the possible. Neutron star Quark matter Associate Professor Aleksi Vuorinen and University of Helsinki. These are just a few of the things you have to look forward to. The Finns have laid claim to the notion that the blitz of the unknown within neutron stars may not merely be of nuclear matter alone, but almost certainly that there exists a novel matter built on quark matter within these neutron stars. The probability that it is not also comprised of this novel matter of quark matter is identified simply as non-zero. I don't know what that number is, but I have a feeling that there's a lot of .0000s before you get to the 1. That's what I'm thinking. This is an excerpt from Science Daily. A new type of matter discovered inside neutron stars. Maybe. But there is that non-zero chance that it's not. Finnish research group has found strong evidence for the presence of exotic quark matter inside the cores of the largest neutron stars in existence. The conclusion was reached by combining recent results from theoretical particle and nuclear physics to measurements of gravitational waves from neutron star collisions. All normal matter surrounding us is composed of atoms, whose dense nuclei, comprising protons and neutrons, are surrounded by negatively charged electrons. Inside what are called neutron stars, I think that most people reading your stuff probably could have just done with inside neutron stars. Atomic matter is, however, known to collapse into immensely dense nuclear matter in which the neutrons and protons are packed together so tightly that just stick with the story. Your wife is listening. She's going to beat you. That the entire star can be considered one single enormous nucleus. Up until now, it has remained unclear whether inside the cores of the most massive neutron stars nuclear matter collapses into an even more exotic state called quark matter, in which the nuclei themselves no longer exist. Researchers from the University of Helsinki now claim that the answer to this question is yes. Yes, it is. The new results were published in the journal Nature Physics. Why don't they just call it physics or just nature? I think there is a magazine called Nature, but screw them. Screw you. We're Nature now. We take the mantle. Confirming the existence of quarks, trying to set off a territorial gang war amongst researchers is indecent. I apologize. Don't listen to me, researchers. Don't do it. Don't. Confirming the existence of quark cores inside neutron stars has been one of the most important goals of neutron star physics ever since this possibility was first entertained roughly 40 years ago, says Associate Professor Aleksi Vuorinen from the University of Helsinki's Department of Physics. Vuorinen. It's a Vuorinen. You know, I really like the way that looks. And I got to start creating these text thingies anyway, so I might as well just kind of... this news poem text thingy. There we go. We're creating a news poem text thing. That's what we're doing. Got this news poem text thingy. We're typing it. We've typed it, and now we're entering of Vuorinen. I think we'll make you a nice dark blues. Dark blues. All right, that's sort of. All right, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Let's stretch you out, baby. Let's make you own this town. Vuorinen, this is your town. This is your town now, Vuorinen. House of Vuorinen.
Hey, Vuorinen's here. Do you want to talk to him? I always want to talk to Vuorinen. If he's here, I want to talk to him. I told you that. You shouldn't even be asking me this question. I apologize. Yes, yeah. I'm going to shoot you after this is over. It's a poor, cold-blooded, theatrical way to send a message to the audience that I'm a killer and you shouldn't like me. Because I'm a hack writer. Cool.
According to the study, matter residing inside the cores of the most massive stable neutron stars bears a much closer resemblance to a quark matter than to ordinary nuclear matter. The calculations indicate that in these stars, the diameter of the core identified as quark matter can exceed half of that of the entire neutron star. Dang. Okay, so when they say core, they mean like big boy core. He's a big boy. Or should I say in these days, I should say she's a big boy. I think there's a song called She's a Big Boy. That's why I said that. I think there is. But that's distracting. Let's stick to the point. So that's pretty fatty within. However, Vuorinen points out that there are still many uncertainties associated with the exact structure of neutron stars. What does it mean to claim that quark matter has almost certainly been discovered? Yes, Vuorinen, let us know, Vuorinen. Demand to know. There is still a small but non-zero chance that all neutron stars are composed of nuclear matter alone. What we have been able to do, however, is quantify what this scenario would require. In short, the behavior of dense nuclear matter would then need to be truly peculiar. For instance, the speed of sound would need to reach almost that of light. Vuorinen explains. Boy, you don't want to explain yourself in that universe. Not out loud. Not to any degree that anyone can hear it. That sound liable to smash you to death. Can you imagine sound waves hitting you at the speed of light? I'm thinking sound waves would do stuff to you, right? That would be a game changer. Did you even think about that, Vuorinen, before you whipped this possibility into the universe at all? Now the sci-fi writers are going to be busily tapping away in whatever manner they do, or maybe we have AI sci-fi writers now. Just plug the, hey, could you plug in that scenario with the speed, the sound waves go at the speed of light? What that does, that'd be cool. Let's create a movie around that. There you go, Vuorinen. That's what you've done. I'm going to remove you now, though, Vuorinen, because now we're getting to the poem part of the news poem, and I just don't want Vuorinen to dominate my news poem. I was going to say I love you, Vuorinen, but I don't know you. But I'm going to say it anyway, because I assume love, because I'm a decent human being. I love you, Vuorinen, but not so much that I'm going to let you dominate my news poem, because this news poem is special to me. Special. The title of the news poem is different than, the title of the poem is different than the news poem title, which will happen sometimes. Non-zeros battle neutron stars with spears of Quark. Non-zero. Will the wish survive the morning ponder? Non-zero. The dangle of the bone and the meat that turns out to be glass stand bursts to supernova flash over our dining room table, the likes of which the eyes flicker. The lie dissolves the retina. The wires fuse to the rusted circuit boards, loose, tangled in the gaps where risk breaks certain. And the reward is the flash of the jumped charge. Crackle, the star is the eating of the dining room table under the loam of the sudden bones fusion. The decree. There shall not be no one ever, the Quarks that sing like a row of judges with cones for crowns, somber doctors and lawyers sitting on hands, waiting for the time to die. Die, decree, I decree. Neutron stars eat their young. Crowns of the jewels fit into matters quarked into the asymmetry that jumps out of the maths. If it skips the maths, there is a novel matter to expose. Expose. This is the design. Is by. Is design. The matter comes down to this. Pattern equals thought. Equals something that which to own. Copyright decree. The neutron star's debris field now littered with virtual property claims from 18,000 paying customers of the littered neutron star field 21, or the dining room coalition of the space enthusiasts of the American Council's Republic. Seriously, that's what they named it. If they were real. I don't own the neutron star. But I have the papers. I have virtual papers. I can print out and wave in front of the flickering flames of Quark. The Quark matter. Dancing. In a supernatural green luminosity, eating light. I couldn't ask for a better turnout, folks. Couldn't ask for a better turnout, folks. The stars are aligned tonight, and I feel it all coming together. I feel the new matter becoming the known, and the trace of those patterns undoing the limits on science and delivering to us. All of the suns and all the moons we'd hope to pet in cubes or walk in silent power with galaxies swimming in our earringed affairs. I love this place. This home. That about says it right there. Don't forget to tip your Freako at tips.freako.com or freako.com/tips. You can also just go to freako.com and find the big yellow button to click on. Some of the stories that didn't make it into our segments that you see if you're watching on BitChute or you're watching on YouTube are some of these. These are some of our focus links you may have missed. These free tools blur protesters' faces and removes photo metadata. If insurers wanted to flex their pro-climate muscle, they should lobby lawmakers and reconsider where they advertise. Turkey uses Libya for its Mediterranean expansion vision, but it could backfire. Some of our headline links that didn't make it onto the show. We have UK asks China to step back from the brink in Hong Kong. At least 39 injured in knife attack at China kindergarten. And the Blackout Tuesday hashtag on Instagram blocks vital Black Lives Matter information activists say. And that's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Freako Talks the News is wrapping up. I want to thank everybody who took the time to join me here in the show today. And I really like the length of the show now, about an hour and a half or so, hour 15 minutes, whatever thereabouts. Really, really happy with that length. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed making this show. Oh, that reminds me, though, I do have to do one more thing, though. I do have to do one more thing. Let me go back to... Where can I go back to? I'll go here. No, here we go. Here we go. Sorry about that. Let's go here. Let's change this to 2... I deserve this. 2 shows in a row, ladies and gentlemen. 2 shows in a row. So 2 shows since Freako last freaked out. And now, I hope if I said anything that made you feel like you would want me to fall down a flight of stairs repeatedly until all of my teeth ended up firmly implanted in the backside of the sensitive area of the backside. If you have that in mind, I hope that I can extend this little olive branch to you. Well, why don't I press the button and do that?
Thank you for engaging with this material presented. As usual, remember your views, your suppositions do not make you subhuman, nor do they permit you to subhumanize others. No humans were harmed in the making of the show, and we extend no wish of harm on anyone who hasn't directly harmed or threatened to harm others first, no matter how reprehensible we find your views.
We will see you in the next Freako Talks, where Freako attempts to talk about news without freaking out.
It's not